Hello, everyone. It's Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is Tuesday, the 20th of December, 2022. Click on the subscribe button in the lower right here to subscribe, and also the notification bell in the far upper right. And if you do that, I'm going to promise you're going to have the best day that you've ever had this month, tomorrow morning, starting tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and get started with my talk today, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion becomes a cult. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has evolved into a philosophy demanding that members of so-called victim classes be given preference over more qualified members of the so-called non-victim classes. Now, the chief non-victim class is composed of white heterosexual males. There are two major victim classes in this theory of diversity, equity, and inclusion. One includes racial and ethnic minorities, unless they happen to be Asians or Ashkenazi Jews. The latter two are excluded under DEI because they tend to score highly on aptitude tests. And DEI doesn't want any members that score highly on aptitude tests to be given the advantages of the DEI victims. The second DEI victim class includes homosexuals, gender-confused persons, and women. Although homosexuals and the gender-confused are indeed minorities, women are a majority and even account for 60% of college graduates. Since all of these so-called DEI victim classes benefit from it, they tend to unite and dominate the Democrat Party and our educational, government, corporate, and cultural institutions. As a form of affirmative action, DEI may tend to provide America leaders who achieved their post via their presumed victimhood more so than their accomplishments. Indeed, that is why Black Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas opposes it. He opposes affirmative action and therefore DEI. He argues that society has been branding DEI and affirmative action beneficiaries with doubts about their competence for 60 years. Those doubts will last forever unless DEI remedies such as racial and gender preferences are eliminated. Earlier Americans chose their role models among the accomplished persons without regard to the superficial characteristics of those persons, such as skin color, sex, and regional accent. Examples in the business sector include Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Bill Hewlett, Robert Noyce, and Ted Turner. Since DEI puts a thumb on the scale of our meritocracy, it tends to give our country less merited leaders. One example is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, who lied about her ethnicity to gain DEI advantages for prestigious academic sinecures. Some refer to her as Liawatha. Another is Representative Maxine Waters, who lives in a $6 million mansion outside of her congressional district. Confederate heroes are disdained by the DEI mob because American slavery was concentrated in the South during the Civil War. Feminists also despise Confederate leaders because of their chivalry. Feminists assume Southern men adopted chivalry to control women, whereas it was truly intended as a way to defend and provide for them. DEI must be eradicated from academia if Southern culture is ever again to have a fair hearing before the bar of history. A recent report from the American Association of University Professors reveals that fealty to diversity, equity, and inclusion is becoming increasingly mandatory at colleges and universities. This is evident from the evolving standards for tenure, a highly coveted rank that practically guarantees lifetime job security, superior family health care, and a generous pension at retirement. The AAUP report shows that 46% of educational institutions, almost half, with more than 5,000 students, already include DEI criteria as part of their tenure evaluation process, and also it is factored into later promotions among the professors. So a diversity professor is more likely to be promoted than one that does not belong to the victim class, given an arrangement where DEI factors into promotions as well as tenure appointment. Additionally, another 36% are considering DEI criteria as a requirement. So what this means is that fully 82% of educational institutions with over 5,000 students either presently include DEI factors in tenure evaluation and promotion, or are considering it. Given the substantial rewards and security provided by tenure, there can be no doubt that professors will increasingly include DEI propaganda in their work. So that's what we're going to hear from the colleges and universities, more and more of this DEI propaganda, because the teachers are being paid to provide that propaganda. They are being incentivized by their pay, by tenure, to provide that propaganda. Additionally, applicants for teaching jobs at many universities are required to provide, quote, a diversity statement as a component of their application. Harvard's Bach Center for Teaching and Learning describes such a statement as, quote, a polished narrative, typically 1 to 2 pages of length, which that's nauseating, typically 1 to 2 pages of length, that describes one's accomplishments, goals, and process to advance excellence in diversity, inclusion, and equity. Often, mere student applicants to graduate schools are required to provide a diversity statement. While the DEI requirements for tenure will predictably solidify hostility towards Southern culture and general conservative politics within colleges and universities, the diversity pledges required of job applicants and students are downright wicked. They evoke the fealty pledges required from the youthful brown shirts of the Nazi Party. What is Antifa? What is Antifa, for example, but another version of the brown shirts worshiping at the feet of another fraud? Okay. Before I go, I want to share something on my screen with you. Here we go. It's coming up now. I want to enlarge this. How do I do that? Here we go. This is my book, Trading with the Enemy, the Covert Economy During the American Civil War. And what this talks about is the cotton trade between the North and the South during the war. Now, as it turns out, more than twice as much cotton was shipped through the battle lines to the north, the, the New England mills, then went through the maritime blockade to Europe. So you watch Gone with the Wind, Rhett Butler was a blockade runner, and he was taking cotton out of the United States or out of the Confederate States and bringing luxuries back. But it turns out that was not the major way that cotton was exported from the Confederacy during the war. In fact, the major exports went to the United States, went to the New England mills, twice as much. So there's a lot of information in here that historians that tend to favor the northern perspective on the war, they don't want to see this information because it does not reflect favorably upon them. They bought cotton. Sometimes they buy it for gold, which would enable the Confederacy to buy weapons. Sometimes they even traded weapons for cotton. So if you want to learn about that, Trading with the Enemy by Philip Lee is a good place to go. You can, it's $28 at the bookstores. If you want an autographed copy from me, it's $32. I will charge you the extra $4 I will use to cover the postage, so you won't have to pay any postage. But an autographed copy will be $32. Okay, let me stop sharing that. That is our show for today, and thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. If I don't see you before Christmas, have a Merry Christmas.